And if you think because of that bright sunshine, the temperature here in Champlain on the Mason Road in front of Bourdeau Brothers is in the 40s or 50s, my friend, you are sadly mistaken. We awoke this morning to temperatures anywhere from 4 or 5 to 7 or 8 above zero. But the sunshine certainly does feel good on this 8th day of March in 2001. We're here to celebrate Pioneer Days, as Bourdeau Brothers does every year. And contrary to what might be the popular belief, we didn't just come here for the food. Maybe Calvin did, I'm not sure. But we're seeing a slightly different scene than we have in the past. First of all, we got a lot of snow on the ground. As you know, parts of the North Country got very close to 4 feet of snow in a recent late winter snowstorm. And unfortunately, as we're recording this, the weather forecasters are saying 6 inches or more are possible in another storm tomorrow night. We're hoping they're wrong, as many of the metropolitan meteorologists were wrong. And boy, did they take a beating over the last storm. They said, we hope it goes upstate. We said, we hope it stays downstate. And we're saying the same thing for this coming weekend. You'll notice the scene across the road from the Mason Road here in Champlain has changed in other ways too since we were here last year. We understand that the Bourdeau Brothers bought out some other properties and constructed some large silos across the road here, so they have a much larger area to display the beautiful new equipment they have for sale. This business is a very competitive business. We've talked a great deal in the past about farming in the North Country, and we've talked a lot about farmers and their families and how they struggle to make a living in this day and age. And as we've said before, it's a competitive business from the farmer's point of view, and certainly is from the dealer's point of view. We'll find out a lot more inside today about who's been here. Pioneer Days, as you may remember from the past, span, 3 days, Calvin, right? Every year. And one or two of those days were very much involved in this serious snowstorm that we just talked about. So we don't know how big a crowd we're going to have. We're recording this at about 9:30 in the morning on the 8th day of March, and hope to talk to some of your friends and neighbors and find out what's cooking here today in more ways than one at Pioneer Days on the Mason Road in Champlain. I got to tell you, it's a lot warmer in here than it was outside when we were just standing outside with about a 10 or 12 mile an hour wind blowing, and that seems to be the name of the game this winter. But it's nice inside for Pioneer Days up here in Champlain on the Mason Road. The food looked good. Calvin hasn't let me touch a fork yet because he knows once that motion started, it's hard to slow it down. But I did get to have a cup of coffee. Calvin left the camera running by mistake for 20 minutes. I think we ought to show the part that wasn't planned. How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Who are you?
Dennis Babby.
And we got to start by saying, talking about the food. How was it, Dennis?
It was excellent.
I saw you shoveling it in.
I was trying to hurry up and get out of here.
I heard you say that too when we walked in the door. Let's get out of here. Here they come with the camera. So what's new with you in the farming business here?
Nothing. Same old.
You know, farming is one of those things where it seems like the same old thing day after day, but for a lot of little farmers like you, it seems like you're not making progress sometimes. Is that a little depressing?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But if you like it, you got to stick with it and do it. There's not too many people out there who like what they're doing.
You know, that's something else. I heard, a new program on television the other night, and the father was telling the son, no, you don't go to work because you like it. You go to work because you go to work. But I've always said, and Calvin has agreed with me, if you're not doing something you like to do, then
You might as well not do it.
You might as well not do it at all.
That's right.
Especially farming, because it's one of those things we talk about a lot on this program. Farmers are the unsung heroes of the North Country. Guys like you who just decide that you want to get in the business and stick with it day after day after day. There are a lot worse ways to make a living. It's not, you can't make a fortune farming, no matter how big or small you are these days. But it's healthy business, and if the government would cooperate,
Yeah, that would help too.
and the weather would cooperate.
Yeah, that's a big thing right there.
What the? Now, As I mentioned to our viewers, and I have no idea when we're going to broadcast this show, we just went through a major snowstorm here in the North Country. How does that affect a small farmer like you, Dennis?
Well, it's like everybody else. You gotta plow out. That's one thing about snow. The more you get, you can always plow it out, but it's a lot easier to deal with than the cold weather. The cold weather is just cold and nothing wants to go right. But at least the snow, you can move it and you can, eventually you'll get through.
It takes a day or two to get organized.
Well, it does, yeah, but I'd rather deal with the snow than the cold weather.
In the spring, we're plowing fields. In the wintertime, we're plowing snow. Overall, what would you say about this winter in terms of winters in the past? We've heard about El Nino and all that stuff in years past, and then when this winter started, they told us maybe it was going to be a normal winter. Then they just told us this may have been the biggest snowfall we've had in the last 100 years. So I don't know. How's it been overall for you?
Oh, I think it's been a pretty decent winter. It's good that we got a little bit of snow that covers the fields and that, and you don't get much winter kill. And I think a snowfall is good. Like the past winters we've been having, a lot of them we haven't been getting too much snow, and you get a lot of winter kill. When the fields aren't covered with the snow that protect them.
See, our laymen who aren't farmers have no idea what you're talking about. Explain what that means.
Well, when there's no snow over the fields, they're more apt to winter kill the alfalfa, and you get a lot of dead spots in the spring of the year for your summer feed.
So the snow cover is actually good.
Oh, it protects the fields, yeah, sure does. I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
I know exactly what you mean, but it's something most of us wouldn't even think about.
Right.
I live on the river in Saranac, and the only thing I worry about is if this cotton picking thing melts too fast, I'm going to become an ark, and I'm heading down the river.
Yeah. That's true too. If you get a lot of snow, you get a lot of melt off. And
we've seen serious flooding, Champlain, Rouse's Point, Northern Tier, and down in my area in Sable Forks. So many years now. People are saying, I don't know, we could, those normally dangerous areas could flood again. Well, it's all up to somebody. Yeah.
It depends how it melts, too. If it melts nice and slow, or if we just get one big thaw, and that's when all the ice breaks and it jams up someplace, that's what causes most of the big flooding problems. But
do you have a big farm? How big is your farm?
No, it's just a little small farm. Well, we got about 75 head altogether.
See, back in the days when I worked on farms, a little small farm was 35 head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nobody had 400 or 500, 600 cows like they do now.
No. That's what it's coming to, I guess. All the little farms keep combining.
Now, have you, was your family in farming before you got into farming, or what directed you there?
Yeah. Well, actually, it belongs to my father-in-law, and I'm running it for him right now. That's how I'm involved in it.
How many people work with you on the farm?
Just me and my boy over there.
Just two guys?
Yeah.
People don't realize it. We're talking about a modern age where people are getting into jobs and they're complaining if they have to work over 30 or 35 hours a week. It seems like you work 30, 35 hours in a day.
Just about. Some days it feels like it, yeah.
Everybody's working toward how many personal days and how many vacation days and how much their retirement and how many sick days. And, if they don't get 2 or 3 days off in a week, then they don't feel right.
That's right.
It's a whole different ballgame with farmers.
That's right.
When you're running the show, it's 7 days a week.
That's right. Twice a day.
Chores have to be done.
That's right, regardless. But if you like doing it, you don't mind it, you got to like it to do it.
But every day's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, you never know what you're going to wake up to.
Weather-wise and otherwise.
And cow-wise, too, you never know. Cows are similar to people. They can be sick one day and out the door they go,
Calvin and I were just talking on the way up, driving up here, about the two diseases that are in the news today, the hoof and mouth disease and the mad cow disease. Does any of that stuff bother you?
No, at least not now. I imagine it would if it was around here, but no, it doesn't, not right now.
Just one more thing to listen to everybody else talk about, and you hope that it doesn't get into this area.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I've already talked to you about 15 minutes longer than you hoped I would.
You're right.
But I wish you luck in everything you do, Dennis, and maybe next year you'll leave me a pancake instead of eating them all.
Oh, there's plenty over there.
We're at Pioneer Days at Bourdeau Brothers on the Mason Road in Champlain. I love it. Jeff says I got to get some more juice ready. I'm going to get cotton mouth real quick, boy. They dry right up when the camera starts, eh? How you doing, Jeff?
We're good, thank you.
How you doing, Mr. Lauren?
Very good.
That's wonderful. Let me see. Last year we talked to you
Dragoons.
at Dragoons, right?
That's right. I seem to get caught every time, so
You're like I am, though. You're going where the food is, right?
that's part of the reason.
Have you done business with these folks here for a long time, or?
Off and on. Fertilizer, baling string, things that you need. You know, you don't have to go too far away. We get it from them.
These guys have been in business for a long time. I used to know how long. Calvin might remember. I bet he doesn't.
I can't.
20 years.
20 years?
They've been in business over 20 years.
Well, you ought to know. You've been around here at least 21 years.
I doubt it. No, I did business off and on with them. They're very good people to know, and they got connections. That's the nice
It's
part.
good to have connections every now and again, right? Starts with pancakes and works his way out from there. I notice outside they got some big silos or tanks across the road now. I wonder what's in those.
He's starting to do little grain drying with soybeans and stuff like that. And I see
really?
he just put those up last year, and I think it's like anything. You got to have a little bit of open doors to other businesses in case, because he's gotten into machinery now.
I noticed that too
He's
in
gotten
a big
into-
way when Calvin pulled up in the car. Holy mackerel!
Well, I think that's, like I do in farming, you got to make sure you got all options open, and it works for you. It works a little better that way. You ask me.
Well, formerly it was just fertilizer,
Yep.
and into seed, and
Does he still haul milk, Dad? No.
I don't know.
I don't think he hauls milk, and then grain. He does his grain business, and then, like I said, he advertises in a tractor magazine that I know about too. Fast Lane Tractor. So he's out there, and he tried to put himself out there in a lot of different little spots. It's good. It's good.
it's just like farming. You got to do what you can to survive, right?
Yep. All little guys. I say little guys. There's a lot of little people are looking different ways to make ends meet sometimes. And with us, I say it, farming in the last 10 years has gone to being everybody doing a specialized job on the business and really doing a lot better than what they've been doing. One guy's a milker, he's become a professional at it. One guy's a mechanic, he becomes a professional at it. Field crop man, the whole 9 yards.
It's something we've talked about a lot, because since the days when I worked on farms back in the 1950s, farming has changed a great deal, but it seems like every year when we come up here to do these interviews, people are talking about new things that they have to learn and how they have to expand or change product lines or learn something new. It's like going to college every day, isn't it?
Yeah, sprayers licenses, CDLs for trucking. You have to go with the flow, because if you don't, I think you do get left behind. Like I say, the spraying license, I know he's got the edge here. When you're spraying, he can cut a lot of corners for you, but you still have to have that license to buy spray and stuff like that when you need it for yourself.
See, I don't think most of our audience would even know that you got to have a license to spray, right?
Yeah, you got to have one. I started 20 years ago with a license, and I had to go through tests, and you got to pass your exams and know your chemicals and how to use them. You can't spray when it's windy in case your neighbor's got something next to you. It makes it rough. So you got to keep up with the times.
Yeah, once again, I think we're educating a lot of our viewers across the North Country who just don't have any association with farming or farmers. They probably don't even realize that you do have to spray. What kinds of things and how often do you have to spray, and why?
Well, first of all, when you're doing any crop, you're thinking of pest, and you're using pest in a general term, because you got cutworm, you got rootworm, you've got different things that attack different crops. So you can't just use anything on everything. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like, let's specialize and let's have guys like this that know a lot more about it. It's not that I'm that educated about it, but these guys come in, they know the rate, they know how to keep your insecticides or your pesticides out of the streams. You don't want to become a pollutant. You know, you don't want to go overboard in any of these things, so you use them to the minimum amount. You get the problem done, and then you get out of there. So it helps. It helps. And like I say, these people, you've got to have some guys in here that know the calculations a lot better than us, because you just look at the machinery behind us. There's a lot to it. There's no way around it. You've got to be on the ball.
Like I said, it's like getting a college education every day of your life. If you don't study the latest techniques, then you're going to be behind your neighbor, and pretty soon your small farm's going to go the way of a lot of small farms have gone, because people haven't gotten up early and learned what they need to know to stay in business.
Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. Like I say, with the spraying thing, there's too many variables there to get caught with. You know, you don't want to take the risk. And at times when you do it, you want to make sure you're doing it right. There's too much investment there. Everything is, you pinch a corner, and, sometimes spend $1 if you're not careful. Like he said, the neighbors, you worry about it. We're being considered, even with the manure systems now, we're being considered like a 0.8 or a point what?
I don't remember the percentage.
We're a source of a pollutant, like most things are, but they're trying to target the farmers for liquid manure and the fertilizers, so they're putting a lot more controls on us in general, because they are bigger and they're probably getting, I ain't going to say we're getting away with anything, but they're being very, very hesitant and very careful with us.
Well, the phosphorus in the lake on Lake Champlain in Vermont has been highlighted and headlined in the news for some time now. It's a shame because, in some ways, because as we've mentioned numerous times, it's hard enough for a farmer to make a living day after day and to pay his grain bills and fertilizer bills and all the other stuff. But then with new regulations, it's pretty hard to keep up. But what choice do you have?
Well, even with the phosphorus level, I'm glad you brought that up. That in a cow is pretty dangerous too,
Tell me about it.
When a cow gets phosphorus level too high, it causes like acidosis and certain things that come up with ulcers, cysts in their legs, bad feet. They tend to throw calves. So all that plays a factor, even right to the farmer. It comes back and probably haunts us a little later on. If your feeds are too high in some of these ingredients, the phosphorus and potassium levels, you get in trouble. You actually, it comes back to haunt you, just like I said. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to be conservative, because if you're not, you get it back.
Well, you have to almost know chemistry to keep up with this. What you're telling me is it's not like the farmer can just be an individual, have his 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, help him run the farm, and not rely too much on his neighbors unless he needs some help doing combining or building a barn. It's a whole different ball game. And what you guys are telling me here, you need a whole network of people to help you, don't you?
Yep. You say that. I got 5 kids. They don't seem to be wanting to help too often, though. A little bit of soccer player in them, and this and that and the other thing. Maybe it'll come around, though. You never know.
I heard Calvin ask his son to clean the snow off the roof today. As he walked out the door, he said, "I got a lot of stuff to do this afternoon."
Yeah, but you take veterinarians help us out a lot, and we got feed nutritionists that come and visit the farm. They stick around for 2 and 3 hours at a time, check all the feed, test the feed, look at the feed, go in and check the cows, and they keep abreast of us. And if they see something wrong, they'll tell you, and that helps out a lot in the long run.
How many vets do we have up here in the Northern Tier?
Oh, I would say between Dr. Evans and Palmer, we've probably got another 1 or 2, and they've got like assistants.
You're talking about 2 names that have been around for a long time. Old Dr. Palmer is still in there. His kids are running the business, and Wayne Evans, Talk about an icon and an institution.
Yep.
Whatever there is to do, he's been there and done it, hasn't he?
Yep. Like he says, them are pretty valid points. The two people he just talked about are important. Like you're saying, that network of information, it helps. The nutritionist is they're very guiding, and then the vet is always there for a good comment and saying what he could suggest to improve things. The bottom line with it is the cow. If the cow's not healthy and you're having trouble, you gotta isolate these problems. So those two people are very, very helpful. The nutritionists through grain companies. Again, I think Jermaine's probably got his own people that do that, and the veterinarians. He was trying to say there's probably like five, six vets in the area with assistants, or just
I'd say 4 or 5 the most, because there's a couple of them in Plattsburgh that's quit. Big animals, they've gone straight cats and dogs and little things like that.
Now when they can make money doing appendectomies and lumpectomies and everything else on dogs, $3,000 or $5,000 people are spending on their dogs and cats now. They don't need to concentrate on cows anymore.
no. Like you say, with us, we worry about the little things. Sometimes we can't do enough for the cows, but like you say, sometimes the money's not there for it though too. You say, yeah. You can only put so much. We're not a horse farmer. We're not this, that, or the other thing. So you can only put so much back on them. You can watch them, and they don't tell you when they're sick. The next thing you know, you walk out there and they're dead in the floor, and you don't know what's the matter with them. So you try. And the bigger farms they're having that difficulty with isolating sicknesses and stuff. So a loss sometimes makes you look harder, or something. So.
We were just talking with one of your fellow farmers a few minutes ago about some of these horrifying diseases that you see on the news and read about in magazines. Thank goodness we don't have that horrible stuff up here. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, mad cow and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, I think that's when the government and the regulations come into factor. That's why we're all that willing. I think that's why we get a lot of the licenses we do and stuff like that, because you get guarded that way. You get looked at and guarded a little bit, so it's good.
I see, I don't have much association with farmers until we come up here to these Pioneer Days or go to some of the other places every year, but I do pay attention on the news items connected with farmers because I have so many friends who do it, and I hold North Country farmers in such high regard because I know how hard you have to work for a living. But it pleases me when I see somebody say we're on the verge of curing a certain kind of cancer, but it pleases me also when I see on the news when we're on the verge of being able to prevent diseases that have plagued farmers for a long time, like mastitis, for example, and other things. We're making little progress in some of those regards.
Well, it's all in practice. I think that's in practice. There's some technique and style there too, the veterinarians again, but you got to vaccinate. That man's been vaccinating cows for the last 25 years and is faithful. You call the vet up, he gives you a certain amount of vaccinations like we were when we were kids. You got vaccinated. We all got the MMRs and everything. Cows are the same thing. If you don't stay with it, something comes in, jumps in the herd, you're all done. It's good practices. You've got to be good at what you do or you don't stay in the business for a while. So you got to have some good practices.
But as this young man said, and you brought him up well, a lot of what you can do with your farm has to do with how much money you got to do it. You can get behind the 8-ball awful easy, can't you?
Yes, you can, and you got to be sharp in order to stay in business. And if you're not sharp, you're not going to stay in business. And this is one of the things that I imported cows about 25 years ago, and I ran into that problem. And I know what it is, because Doc and I sat in a barn for days and nights for a week to solve the problem. And when you start importing from other countries, that's where you run into troubles.
See, I would never think about that, but I can understand why that's true.
Yeah, it's happened. I had one guy tell me the other day, I can say it like this. Most of the businesses that you talk to in the North Country work like this. If you got good customers, usually the business is a good business. It stays there for a while. So Jermaine's always got the better customers, the better farmers. You'll see that his place will hold up like the next business will hold up. It takes good customers to make good businesses, you know? So it's all like a little ladder effect. Everybody starts doing their job properly, and the next guy, he'll profit from it or whatever it takes. It'll come for you.
It's like that word network before. You find out who your friends are and who your neighbors are. How big a farm operation do you have? Like how many head?
We're running right around 450 to 500 head.
Boy, you get farms of so many different sizes. We have one guy that's got 75, another guy's got 400, 450, another guy that's getting close to 1,000 head.
Yeah,
Can you imagine when you were a young guy starting?
Bigger isn't better, you know.
Not necessarily.
I found that out in '92. I went bigger, and sometimes I wish I'd have stayed small.
The thing of it is to pick a number. How many head do you need to break even? I mean, there was a time when we started doing these interviews where somebody said you got to have 500-600 head or we can't keep the farm, we can't survive.
They become milk factories. All the bigger farms have become a milk factory, and sometimes I couldn't say the input and the output of a milking factory only dictates what you're going to become. You know, again, I'm saying milk factory because my daughter comes home from school one day and said that a teacher of hers told her that the farms in the area have become so big it looks like you're going by milk factories. You're going by a factory and it's really just a dairy barn. But for some reason they have the advantages. A little bit bigger sometimes you lose that closeness, that one-on-one relationship to a cow, but sometimes it covers up a lot more of the bigger mistakes, you know, if you have more milk in the tank, and it sometimes sweetens it somehow, and it's hard to explain because he's right.
You know, Jeff, you're a pretty bright guy. I've always known that farmers they have intuition, they have a connection with nature like nobody else has, but they're smart and intuitive, I think, and creative, because, you know, when something breaks today, you got to figure out a way to fix it if you don't have a chance to go somewhere. So you got to be pretty smart. When you talked about a one-on-one relationship with a cow, I just wonder how many of our viewers across this North Country have ever thought about a farmer having a one-on-one relationship with a cow. But you know, it's like raising kids. You got to look at them and try to figure out what's wrong with them. And kids can tell you where it hurts, and a cow sometimes can't. So if you don't have a one-on-one relationship with your cow, you're going to lose out somewhere along the line. It's a very interesting point.
Yeah. Well, the dogs. You told me the factor about a man with a dog who spent $4,000 or $5,000. Well, he knows that he's watching one animal, and all of a sudden the dog becomes sick, you know. So he takes it to a vet and spends the money. Whereas in us, if you got 50, 60 cows walking by you and you're not taking that time to look at her, and she like you just said, if she can't say or show you that she's sick, you're going to lose her, and it's going to happen real quick. You just blink your eyes and you walk out there, and $600 is on the ground or $700 is on the ground. It's, well, like you said, the 70 cow herd, sometimes a man does walk by those cows every day, and he looks at each one, and he knows if she's going to the bathroom or if she's eating, if she's milking. Some of these systems don't tell you what's going on with the cow, so you lose that edge.
How much equipment and technology do you have to have on a farm with a 450 head that you didn't have when you started farming? Tell me about some of the advances you've had to put in to run that big a farm.
Just yesterday.
I'll tell you, there's always problems that you come up with that you don't expect, and that's what sort of hurts us the most. I had a vacuum pump that's been installed since 1992 or earlier. I figured around 6 years old, and the damn thing blew up. It's $4,000. I don't know what it's going to cost.
One little pump, and there's a lot better out there.
And there's better ones that you can't afford. You try to figure out which one is going to do the job for you. And I used the old 10-horse motor. I just couldn't afford to go, and I don't even know labor for installing it is in even yet. And there was 2 men there from 10:30 to 6 at night. So, and I know they ain't working for nothing.
They don't work for a pancake breakfast, right, Jeff?
Yep.
And
That's true, though. It just happens all at once. You know, that the
Murphy's
pump.
Law, right?
That pump, like he says, I had to bring up the pump because when the pump goes, you look at it and everything's sort of like, you know, you've got to corner yourself against a rock and a hard place. Do you spend for the better technology, or do you go back with what you had, maybe a little better? This technology, the one pump that we could have got was $10,000.
Oh,
They call it a variable speed pump, and they're like, it's a simple investment, but there's advantages there. You know, you can sometimes make your cows that much healthier and milking and everything else. So you got to weigh all the pros and cons when you make the decision.
It's wouldn't you call it a juggling match?
It's sort of a juggling match. You got to figure, you try to keep up with the bills. The most important is to stay ahead of your bills. Once you fall behind, you're done. I mean, it wipes out, I would say 90% of the farmers that go out of business is because they can't keep up with their bills and they've lost it.
I don't understand. I truthfully don't understand how you do it. And that if we don't accomplish anything else up here at Bourdeau Brothers today, I want our audience to know how hard a farmer has to work to keep his head above water. And sometimes you can just figure the water getting up close to your nose, can't you, on a given day? Like when that pump goes out, people think they're depressed when they got 2 feet of snow in their front yard. And the guy with the with the plow doesn't come soon enough to plow it out.
Simple problems. Simple problems. Simple problems for simple people. I agree. Sometimes you work awful hard and you don't get anywhere, though, too. It's not just hard work. Remember that. It's you can work hard all the time and not accomplish that much because, you know, how would I say that? You got to be smart about it, but you got to make sure that your hard work is doing the right thing, too. You know, it's
Efficiency, yeah, that's very important.
because, like you say, hard work, that's where the idea comes, farming, hard work. But you got to be smart about that hard work, too. Put it in the right places. Put a priority on it, you know.
And sometimes you got to do whatever job there is to be done right now. When the pump breaks, you got to fix the
That's
pump.
right. Work as a team. Everybody's got to pull as a team sometimes, too. So, like you say.
How many people does it take? Now, we talked to that another farmer who's got 75 head, and he and his son run the farm. How many people does it take to run your farm?
We have 7. We have 1 part-timer and 6 steady.
Your mother and father.
I put 6 in there. They're employees, but they don't.
Paid. We're non-paid employees.
Hey, whatever way you want to look at it, I gave you a number, I didn't lie. 7 for 450 cows. It ain't too bad.
Was there ever, let me ask you some real pointed questions here. Was there ever a time in your life when you were 17, 18 years old and you looked at your dad and your mom and how they were struggling to get by and you said, there ain't no way I'm going to go to work to Wyeth Ayerst up the road here and make a real living and get a real retirement? Was there ever a point where you said, no, I don't think I can do this?
That is a pointed question. Fate, I was brought up, and I know Sam down there, or Carl, whatever their name, Mr. Castine is down there. If you get on a farm, you got a certain amount of duties in your life, and it becomes a habit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I got a roof over my head all day, I think I'd be nervous, you know? Whereas if I did a certain amount of work, I felt like I earned myself a meal. Even at 6 years old, I was feeding calves, let's say. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I don't think so. You'd go and you'd do a little bit of work and you'd go back home and you'd go to school, you know? And that habit gets instilled in you. And by the time I was 18, 19, boy, I'll tell you, I had a lot of oats to sow. But
Didn't we all?
I went to college and I sort of based my life on saying I was going to become a farmer or something to do with farming. But I had my doubts. I ain't going to say I didn't have my doubts. I journeyed off to Reno, Nevada. I went to Long Island, New York. I went to college. I really tried to see what else was out there for a while. When I came back, though, I appreciated what my mom and dad had done for me, so I bucked in. But I've been working on the farm off and on. Like I say, you get bestowed a habit that you follow.
You know, we talked about networks. Farming is a habit. It becomes part of the fabric of who you are. And it's pretty hard. That's why so many farms stay in generation after generation. But a lot of those guys don't turn the same corner that you did when you were 18 and 19. They turn that corner and get to Reno.
Yeah.
And they keep on going, baby.
Yeah, well.
And they never come back to that family farm. But you've mentioned some things that are very important, and I really appreciate you taking time from your nice warm pancakes to talk to us today, because you've pointed out to the rest of us, you've made us humble and almost embarrassed because of some of the other professions we do, because you've learned so many lessons from childhood, and you've put those lessons into good use, and you are a tribute to farming here in the North Country, because you're a perfect example of a family that's stuck with it through tough times and great times. I mean, we like to promote farming on this program, but we can't say that it's all flowers.
Yeah, glitter.
Because there are a lot of days that you're scraping the very bottom of the barrel. I mean, farmers not only don't get a day off, but they don't have time to have I got a headache, let's call in sick today.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What are you going to do, stand out there and say, cows, we can't milk you this morning?
No, I don't have. You know, I'd say one other thing, too. I bring my child to a babysitter, and the smell that goes along with farming, cows, and I walk by the kids that are in this girl's house, and they all go, ew, what's that? And I'm going,
that amazing?
You know what I tell them? I says, that's the fabric of America right there. You know, I'm not being mean to the child, but I'm actually going, remember that smell, because that's where the bread and butter comes from, the milk, the cheese, the eggs, the cereal. And the little child doesn't really know what I'm saying, but I just say it like, that's a good smell. That's a good smell. Remember that smell. Ooh. You know?
Isn't that great?
I get a kick out of it.
You know, I guess all of us are some way. Our memories are attached to odors.
Yeah.
But the farm odors are the most pleasant odors for me, strangely enough. Well, I'm one of those people, when I drive by a farm and I know when they've been spreading manure,
Yeah,
and it makes a smile come to my face, because I have shoveled a lot of that stuff in the old days when you really had to get into it. And it does have pleasant memories. And I can remember when I was 14 years old, the farmer I worked for said, today's the day you clean the chicken coop. And you talk about smells.
Yeah.
I will never forget what a chicken coop smells like if I never walk in one as long as I live. But I also remember the good smells. I remember the old days, the kerosene lamps, the wood stoves, that pot of coffee that wasn't a Mr. Coffee.
Breakfast.
I mean, because that coffee was boiling. It wasn't percolating, it was boiling. And the smell of a piece of ham and eggs for breakfast after you've milked your cows and came in, you've already did a half a day's work by 9 o'clock in the morning. And maple syrup in the North Country. And so, there are, for some people, they might be unpleasant odors. For me, it's a part of who I am, and I know they are for you. You brought out some subtle things today that I'm sure many of our viewers don't think about, but we should. And I think if more of us would take time to take a walk in the country or a ride in the country and breathe in some of those odors that nature has to offer, we'd be better off. Maybe more people should get a personal relationship with their cows, like you said. I'm not going to tie you guys up any longer. I really appreciate you taking time to talk with us today. I've learned a lot. I learn lessons from farmers every day of my life, but you've taught me some good ones. Keep sticking with it. You'll still be milking those cows 40 years from now.
I don't know. I've been through hell so far. I've had open heart. I had a heart attack in November, so I'm still picking at it.
Jeff will help you out to the barn. Don't be sweating.
We got a brother too. He's got another son that helps out too.
Really?
Yeah, a heavier set kid. He loves it. He likes it.
Where's your farm located?
Dutch Road, Shazy near. Right next to Dutch, right on the same area. We're all sort of the last ones, and Harold and Bobby Castine. My Uncle Francis has still got a farm, And Donald Gravel's the last one that I know that we're all sort of touching still.
That's great. Well, keep doing what you're doing. You do it very well. Mr. Lauren, thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you.
Good luck on the farm.
Thank you.
Joe Giroux says, I saw you up there and we got kind of matching stomachs. I'll leave that to our viewers across the North Country to see who, and we could have a little belly bumping contest here, and I know who'd won it. Joe would be airborne. Joe would be airborne from here to the Stetson Road, I guarantee you that. Joseph, how are you, my friend?
Good, yourself?
Notice how kind I was. Calvin and I stood over there for 15 minutes watching you eat.
Well, listen, you were more than invited to come, though.
I didn't want
Coffee.
to leave a half-eaten pancake and some eggs. How many we talk about pancake breakfast. How many do you think you've been to over the years?
Enough of them.
I'm at the point where I can't eat as many pancakes as I used to. But I can remember one pancake eating contest I was in Brushton, New York. I guess it was at the church or the school. The setting kind of escapes me. But I heard there was a contest, so I didn't eat all day, and that was pretty hard for me. And I went there. Of course, I blew away the competition. But I also got so ill that I didn't eat pancakes for a long, long time. So I like the eggs, and I like the sausage, and I like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of them now, but not like the old days.
No,
It's fun.
They put on a real meal here. If you come at Bourdeau Brothers, that's 2 eggs and 3, 4 pancakes and all the toast and sausage you can eat. That's a real meal.
You know, it's great to go to these functions and to
it's
see, to interview the people, the farmers, and to talk to the businesses that have worked with farmers for so many years. Bourdeau Brothers been around for a long time.
Yeah. This is a good gathering here because they got a lot of different reps that sell chemicals and stuff, and they have a good meeting here. Very good get together.
I noticed some big changes when we pulled up outside and see the tanks across the road and farm equipment. And
they're into everything now, huh? Yeah.
Have to be.
Yep, you have to be.
For our viewers who may be watching this for the first time, where the heck have you been? We've been doing this program for years. Joe Giroux's been a friend, fellow farmer in the North Country. We met him, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 20, 30 years ago.
In your previous job?
In my previous job on the radio for a long time. Joe was involved in just about everything, including the Farm Bureau.
Yep, still am.
And he's a Clinton County legislator for Area 3. Calvin reminded me that. Whoops. Is that better? Calvin told me when I started today, you won't be able to break this one, Gord. I got this new mic cord. I notice when I look at these on TV, my fingers are always going like this. I managed to break a lot of his microphone and a lot of cords. Yeah, you've been around here for a long time. You're a Clinton County legislator for Area 3. How long now?
5 years, starting my 3rd term, and I got another 3 years now. So I'll have 8 years under my belt when we get done this 3-year term.
Long-time North Country farmer, ever since your wild and woolly youth?
Since 19 years old, that's right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep, 34 years.
That's true. Where's your farm located, Joe?
In Beatman Town on 22, close to the city of Plattsburgh.
Calvin and I were trying to figure out what your relationship is with all the other famous Giroux's here in the North Country. Can you explain that to me?
Sure I can. The poultry farm all of them are my dad's brothers. The poultry farm is one of my father's brothers runs that. Roger Giroux is the owner and operator with his sons of Giroux's Poultry. And the machinery dealer, that was my father's brother, was Sardo Giroux at the time, but now Rocky Giroux has taken it over. And in the oil business, there was Church Oil, which was Royal Giroux, who took over that business, and now his son-in-law took over that business. So there was all family, yep. And my grandfather was the one who started the poultry business when he migrated over from Canada and during the Depression, and would sell the eggs and then sell the chickens because that's the only food people had around here. And he started that out with a few chickens and some eggs and a few dairy cows, and that was during the Depression days when they moved over from Canada, and that's how they got their start over here. It was that way, to the dairy and poultry business.
So that would have been back in the 20s, maybe.
Yep, it was in the 20s, yep.
Isn't that amazing? And now Giroux Brothers Poultry is world famous.
Yeah, there'll be, I understand, talking to my cousins, that there'll be probably 1 million birds this coming year.
That's hard to
at
believe.
at that poultry farm. So that's a huge operation. Yep. And with today's economy, you have to be careful because of the CAFO plans, where you got to be able to spread your manure and all this stuff. And they just put up a huge building for composting, and yeah, got to be very careful of what environment that you operate in. Yep.
You know, we've talked to a lot of farmers over the years in doing this program and in many other things, and I never ceased to be amazed at how smart farmers are, how they can figure things out. Then you stop to think about it, they don't have any choice.
You got to be
either
innovative.
get up early and figure it out or go out of business.
Got to be innovative, or you're out of this business. Danny Gay here. We've been farmers, been friends since we were kids and grew up together. And if you're not innovative in what you do today, I tell you, you're out of business. You're out of business. If you can't think for yourself and how to fix and repair and make milk and everything else, you're out of it. Yep.
We've talked to small farmers. We've talked to farmers who got, so far today, have got 450, 500 head of cattle.
Yep.
So in Clinton County, they run the gamut from one end to the other, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, we have the 50 farmer cow, the farmer with 50 cows, all the way up to 1,300. Adirondack Farm probably has close to 1,300 cows there. The one in Peru.
1,300 now?
Yeah, milking. Yeah, 12 to 1,300 milking cows there. Yep.
That's beyond my memory. I've never actually toured a farm of that size, but I imagine that's a technological marvel, isn't it? Huh?
Yes, it is. And I think they'd be more than happy to show it to you, to show off their place to you. If you would make an appointment someday, I think you could get in there and they would be more than happy. Very nice, neat looking place. Very, very well ran farm.
When you're that big, it's a real science, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, it is. A little bit of luck too.
Yeah. You know, tell me a little bit about politics these days. We took our microphones in a few weeks ago and did a nice interview with Bill Bingle to find out what the status of the county is. And as you know, I work there as a victims advocate.
Yep.
But I don't get to knock on doors and talk to people in other offices very often, and I don't get a chance to go to the legislative sessions as much as I'd like to. Is it still a challenge for you?
Yes, it is. There's a lot of issues right now, especially with Park. Even though it's not directly involved with us, we have the airport, which is, if you watch the media a little bit, is saying, let's go, let's get this thing on the road.
When the planes landed a short time ago, everybody was all excited.
So that's still a very big challenge, as far as I'm concerned, to move in the county airport over to Park. That's a huge challenge, making sure we can afford to do it and so forth, you know. And you know, as I know, in this building that you work in, the county buildings, the space is a tremendous problem we're having in the county buildings. That and parking, that continues to be a big struggle. Other than that, financially, though, our county is very well ran, I think. Between Bill Bingo as our administrator and Janet Dupre and so forth, I think that our county is well ran as far as, you know, we go from issues like the landfill, which has caused us a lot of misery, but in the last a few months, our debt is only down to $3-4 million compared to the 20 that it was going to be. We have a lot of good issues, you know, a lot of people that are willing to work and do the extras, you know, so, yeah, but it's still a real challenge, and it is on my part as a farmer. Taxes are a big issue. You don't want to work supposedly, and I still think we are the largest industry in Clinton County. We got to make sure that we can afford to stay here. I mean, if we can't, there's a lot of problems. The state has worked real hard at this with these school tax rebates that we've had as farmers, and now they want to do some on property taxes and getting rid of the excise tax on the fuel, which will be entitled to, electricity will be entitled to a rebate on that this year. So those are things that got to lower our costs. We're not able to gain any more money for our product, so we have to find other ways to get income for ourselves, or else we're out of business.
It's a good point. We gripe and complain about paying $1.60 something for a gallon of gasoline and our little 13-gallon tanks in our foreign cars, where farmers burn up a lot of fuel in the course of a year.
Well, it's coming. Spring is coming, and that's our big fuel season when we have to get the fields ready for cropping. And With the price of fuel, you have to be careful, and if you've got to pay that price for it, if you can get an excise tax back or whatever, you have to try for that, because you got to lower that cost. So.
Yeah, that's great. We'll take all the breaks we can get, and we don't even mind getting our little soapboxes up on this program and lobbying for a better shake for the farmers, because we've seen a lot of sad times over the last 5-10 years, and the small family farms going out of business around here, and we just soon no more of them had to shut down.
But that's going to continue happening whether we like it or not. I'm going around saying this, and maybe somebody will make me eat my words, but I'm saying in 15, 20 years from now, there's only going to be 20 farms left in Clinton County.
Think about it.
That's right. You think
how
about
many
it.
there were when you started farming.
Yeah, probably 350 or so. 350 I'm talking about. And I'm talking about 20. It was the same amount of cows that we had when we had 350. I hope that doesn't happen, but at the rate that things are going right now, that's what will happen, because a lot of people who are my age and this young man's age right here have no family left. Our family doesn't want to work with us. Not they don't want to, they don't want to put the hours in, the wages aren't there. So our sons are gone, and a few stay, but very few. And since we don't have that, once we get to the age that we can't physically do it anymore, then we have to sell. And you're going to see a lot of that in the next 10 years. You're going to see a lot of that.
But the farms have to keep producing. Somehow we still have to have those products one way or the other.
Absolutely. And what you see, what happened to the European country makes you think a lot about, maybe the American food we could pay a little bit more, because we certainly have a quality food. I always say, when all the food we import from Mexico, especially our fruits, we all have this white stuff on it that we have to wash off. We'd be a heck of a lot better buying American food and knowing what's put on it.
And I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you on that score, too.
Yep. But this country loves it. They love cheap food, because we do have the cheapest food in the world. They say that we're almost, 13 or 14% of the dollar of our of our pay in this country goes for food, which is the next country they say is almost 30% of their paycheck. So there's nobody even close to us as far as keeping cheap food. And as long as the consumer really appreciates that, but I don't know for how long that'll be able to continue at that rate.
Well, we have to do our little bit on this program to promote farmers and farming, because they are the salt of the earth.
Absolutely.
And we pretty great bunch of people here in the North Country, as we prove every time we take our cameras and microphones out to a place like this, Pioneer Days up here. Let's get back to politics for just a minute. What differences for you has this change in the complexion of the legislature politically? Has it made any big changes for you? Is it more difficult to get things done, or do you find a pretty good spirit of cooperation, or what?
Well, and what has happened in the last couple months is not pleased me tremendously, because I think that we had an excellent leader to start with. Mrs. Paquette was doing a great job as chairperson. I have had no reasons yet why she could not continue in that capacity. Nobody has indicated that to me. As far as bipartisanship, I have no problems with that. I'll always be able to work with my fellow legislators. When we're doing business, and I want that to continue. But I just, in the spirit of cooperation, I'd like to see people be a little bit more careful what they do. I wouldn't do that to somebody else, what happened, and I don't expect it done, and I wouldn't expect the others to do it to me also. So I guess that's where I'm a little frustrated. But in politics, you never know.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I like to give people an opportunity to express their opinions about things. Because the general audience, they don't know what goes on behind the scenes unless somebody covers a legislative session live or talks about it in the newspaper the next day. They don't know about all this little infighting.
That's what it is, too. I'll agree with that. That's infighting within the party, though. It has nothing to do with the other parties, with their own. And I just, I was very pleased the way that it ran before. Mrs. Paquette was a very conservative lady, and I think county tax dollars were down, and the county enjoyed that. I think the people enjoyed that. Not to say they won't continue that way also, but I just like to see the transition a little bit smoother when it happens, that's all.
Boy, there's a lot of things going on in our county. I mean, holy mackerel.
That's what I said earlier.
You mentioned just a few.
Yep.
You talked about space. Of course, we're building new space. I can't wait to see
That's
when
right,
that
because your
moves.
department moves. That's right, your
When that
department
move
moves.
takes place.
I hear
Somebody
it's
said when it's
March.
going to be. Yeah,
March
March.
or 1st of April, I understand. Talking the other day.
They were talking about April 15th, tax day. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see somebody putting my stuff in the boxes.
Well, I see that your elevator is uncovered now, so that's
Yeah,
a good sign.
that's a good
That's a
sign.
good sign. The elevator's uncovered, and that was the holdup, was the elevator. We had ordered the wrong size, and we had to change that around. But now that that's there, I hear the building's going real well inside. So, and that'll be good. That'll free up. The court system has asked for a lot more space. Well, not has asked, has told us that they need more courts. And we have to supply space for the court system, so we have no choice for that. Because I guess some of the third floor will come down to your department where you were. So, and if we have to provide that, we have to provide that. We don't have any choice about that.
Who would ever dream when that beautiful building was built?
That would be too small.
That would be way too small.
Oh, yeah. In fact, we've had a department in a nursing home where, not the nursing, the health department, where they're renting space on Durkee Street for this new water grant that we've had because they don't have room in the health department for it. The grant supplies the lease money, but I mean, we've had to go to Durkee Street to get rooms to supply rooms for the staff people.
Well, we've seen a lot of good things happen. We saw Jim King got himself on the radio and television and newspaper a lot over the last few days with this big storm that we've been talking about in early March.
Great job. Jim does a great job.
Well, they're so happy in their new digs out there in the former Air Force Base.
Yeah, have room, can move around. There's room to park. There's room to do everything. Room for the conference room. I remember during the the 98 storm, there was no room for anybody in the ice storm time. So that was very good what Jim has done.
It's good to see that emergency preparedness office expand, where the envy of many other areas in New York State and other states come to Jim for advice. Now we've seen in recent weeks the American Red Cross with Jeannie Roberts is now expanding its umbrella to cover the whole cotton picking North Country. But these are the people that really began to shine during that ice storm and during the many spring floods. I hate to use that word now in early March because we are watching these rivers here in the North Country. But it's nice to know that we have these experts working for us, you know.
And Jeannie is one of the best also. I mean, we've got some great people in this county that have done us great jobs. And Jim, if you look at Essex, for example, in the last 2 months, looking over 911, they're trying just to set up. We've been set up for 5-10 years, and we're doing a great job, and everybody's online. And
it wasn't easy in the process.
No, it wasn't.
We all remember when we went to this expanded advanced 911, you still had people didn't want to change their house numbers and their road numbers and various towns.
Well, last year we still had a road in Chazy that wasn't properly numbered for 911, and we had to change the name of that road. And you would have thought the world was coming to an end.
People get used to having their name of their road and their address.
Right. And it's an old name, and it means something in the Civil War days, and you don't want it changed. And so that is quite a challenge yet. You have to explain to people, listen, this is safety first, and then we'll worry about the names after.
Well, I think often about the respect that we've garnered from Clinton County and other counties. There are a lot of counties in New York State. Some are advanced and some are behind what we do. But I think we've been on the cutting edge with so many things here in the North Country, and I've watched this happen ever since I moved here in 1961. I have great respect for people like you who take time out of their busy lives to run for political office. It's not something I would choose to do, but I have great admiration because your skin's got to be about 20 inches thick to even consider sitting on that legislative panel because you talk about living in a glass house.
Absolutely. That's just what I stated. You never know what's going to happen. You never know.
But we got to have good people to do it, and I would encourage people who are thinking about making a difference to not just sit around their supper table at night and gripe.
Yep, absolutely.
Do something about it. Getting involved in the political process and run for office because every year it's a challenge to find somebody
Yes, it is.
to represent a certain office, represent
Yep.
a certain political party in a certain area. So it's
Absolutely.
something that I'm glad we had this opportunity to talk about today.
Yep.
Because you're a perfect example of a guy who just decided you could make a difference
Yep.
if you got up there and see how much your vote would be worth.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is an exciting challenge too. When you farm for 30 some odd years and then you get a chance to change careers, not leave the other one way behind, but just change things around, it's interesting. It's dealing with a lot of money, and as farmers, we know what it is to have to struggle with day-to-day costs because it's our own money. And it's the same thing with the county. You know with it. Part of it's your tax dollars. You pay attention.
Yeah, you do pay attention, that's for sure. Joseph, thanks so much for talking with us again. Thanks for all you've done and your contributions to the North Country.
Thank you.
Boy, oh boy, it must be breakfast time. Calvin sent me right in here where the food is cooking. God, it smells good. How we doing?
It's hot.
Are you having fun yet?
Yes.
Who are you?
Linda?
Linda. Great. Thanks so much for inviting us up here again this year. How many eggs have you cooked today so far?
7 dozen.
Have you really?
Yeah, and it's not noon. Well, not noon yet.
No, with this crazy storm we've been having, Ed, I didn't know how many people were going to show up today, but all of a sudden...
Today is a good day. Yeah, Tuesday wasn't so good, but
I
today.
guess it wasn't. Did anybody show up on Tuesday?
Yeah, we had about 20 people.
Did
we,
you
we had a
really?
few people come out. Yeah,
20 people who had somebody else to plow them out, I think, right?
probably. Yeah,
Are we having fun yet? That's what I need to know.
almost. We're always having fun here.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. How long have you been doing these Pioneer Days?
Oh, quite a few years. I'd dare to say 12, 13 maybe.
Really?
If not, somewhere in that area.
I know we've been coming up here off and on for about 4 years, and it's always fun, boy.
Yeah, it is. It's a good time.
I start to drool about 6 o'clock in the morning waiting for those eggs and those pancakes and those sausage.
Yeah.
It's good to get the farmers together, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, they get them all out here and get them together, and they all get chit chatting and solve the problems between them and stuff.
Yeah. It's fun. I love to come up here and see the changes. I looked outside and a lot of changes in this business.
A lot of changes. Something going on all the time. Yeah, big time.
Where's this trailer normally when you're doing business here? Is this
No,
they just
we
towed
get this
in?
out of the Lions Club from.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, from Enosburg, I think it is.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, all the way from Enosburg.
It's perfect for the job.
Excellent for the job.
Fits right in here real good.
Yeah, it does. Does a good job.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah, excellent.
So you've been actually doing the cooking here for all those years, or?
No, I've only been doing it maybe, I don't know, 7 years maybe, somewhere in that area. Yeah. So it's
You're good at it.
well.
So you can't give up after this year. You and Linda, quite a team here.
Yeah, Linda and Joanne's usually in here, and Marge. I don't know where she disappeared to, but yeah, she delivers the dinners.
He kept looking over our shoulders saying, "Are you ready to eat yet?" I was saying, I was born ready to eat.
Yeah, really, huh?
Calvin keeps making me do one more interview before I can get that fork working.
You better get the fork working.
Actually, he has to shut off the camera, Linda, while I'm eating, because even though he's got the most modern camera there is, it's not fast enough to catch that fork on the way. Unless he would get it in slow motion.
Well, I hope you enjoy your meal.
You know we will, and thanks
Okay.
so much for having us here.
You're welcome.
Now, you see, if I happen to burp right in the middle of the next few sentences, you'll know why. I just finished. Actually, I didn't finish it. Neither did Calvin. I couldn't eat that whole plate of food. Man, it was about 6 sausages, about 3 eggs, about 4 pancakes, orange juice, coffee, tea, milk. Calvin drank about a quart of milk. That's good chow. Now you know why we come up to Bourdeau Brothers for Pioneer Days every year. Not to mention the fact that we get to meet people. We've talked with this gentleman before, but I can't remember his name.
Dave Costu.
Dave, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing today?
I'm doing just great. We recovered from the storm. You told me where you lived last year, and I forgot that too.
I live down in Clifton Park in New York, just north of Albany.
Aren't you glad you didn't have to drive up on Tuesday, huh?
Well, yeah.
Or did you?
No, I came up on Wednesday morning. It was cleared up by then.
Boy, that was a little bit of a storm. We're talking about recording this program in early March when we have a dickens of a storm, one of the worst we've seen in years. What was it like down at Clifton Park? Have you been back home?
We had about 2 feet of snow.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So it isn't like you drove into it. You just drove through it.
That's right.
Oh, gosh. Well, we're glad to have you here today. We know you're a Pioneer representative,
Correct.
and we know that Bourdeau Brothers and Pioneer have been associated for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's been about 25 years.
Has it really?
Yep.
That's great. You haven't been involved with it for that long.
No.
When did you start?
I started 6 years ago, about 1994. So it's I guess it's gone by pretty quick.
It's a good bunch of people up here.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Enjoy talking with the farmers. They're very bright people. They have to struggle, as we all do, to make a living. And but I know you try to make things better. What kinds of things does Pioneer have? What products do you represent?
Well, we're a seed company, and our main product is hybrid seed corn, but we also sell inoculant that we put on silages, soybeans, wheat, and alfalfa. That's pretty much our full product line.
You know, they've been branching out here lately. I understand they're going to have an equipment auction here tomorrow, which would be March 9th, right? March 9th. Mm-hmm. And we always see a lot of changes when we come up here every year. But as I said, it's a struggle for farmers to survive, and I know all the companies, including yours, try to make things better for them, right?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, no question about it. Just over the past 50, 100 years, American agriculture has really become very efficient, and yields have gone up significantly, but nonetheless, expenses have gone up a lot for farmers, and the ability to generate a profit in agriculture has been a challenge. So we're trying to develop products that help farmers stay more competitive on a local level and on a global level as well.
And the farmers appreciate that assistance too. We've interviewed a number of farmers, some small farmers and some pretty good farmers with upwards of 500 head of cattle already today, and they mention over and over again how important it is to have organizations like yours, experts to come in and give them a little assistance, because it's you can't do it alone anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. You look at a lot of these big operations, and they really, it's tough for them to be experts in all areas. They need to be experts with cows and with crops and just a tremendous amount of different areas running the farm as far as being businessmen. And we try to help with some of the fine details, try to do the research, bring the information that can help these guys get a little edge, to be more competitive.
Has Pioneer been around for a long, long time, more than that, 25 years?
Yeah, we've been around since 1926.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, actually, one of the founders of Pioneer was Henry Wallace, who used to be the vice president of the United States. So.
Okay, you're going to drop a few names here, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's been quite a while.
I guess I asked you this before, but let's do it again. How did you develop an interest in this business?
Well, I grew up out in the country and around a lot of farms, and just basically went to college for agriculture.
Where'd you go?
Went to Cornell.
Yeah, we were just talking about Cornell a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So I took agricultural business there, and that pretty much led right into coming to work for Pioneer.
That's great. And the rest, as they say, is history.
That's right.
We just didn't get a chance to interview him again, but our friend F. Thomas from Miners was just in here a few minutes ago, and he went to Cornell, and he was instrumental in convincing one of my sons, Gordy Jr., to go to Cornell some years back. I still like to visit that campus. Always liked Sholkoff Field and football games.
Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. It's kind of set right up on the hill, just outside of Ithaca.
Was that your first choice?
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that's decent. I used to love to go to football games down there. I almost went to school there, but having come from a little tiny community called Moira down near Malone in Franklin County, I visited that campus, and it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
Their campus is a lot bigger than Cornell now, but in those days it was just too big for me, and I opted for smaller schools after that. But it's a great school, and it's a decent alma mater. Do you make it back for homecomings or anything?
Yeah, I try to make it back maybe once a year, for various activities.
Stay in touch with your old friends?
Yeah, I have some close friends that I made at Cornell, and we still keep in contact on a regular basis.
Oh, that's decent. Well, thanks so much for being here and having us talk with you.
Thank you.
Right on. All right, Chapter 2. We forgot to ask you a couple of questions. Wait, Calvin says it would be a good idea to talk about what kinds of things farmers are looking for. Now, you talk about seed in general, but what are farmers looking for when they come here to look at your products?
Well, a lot of what they want to take a look at is the performance data that we have on our new corn hybrids. And so we'll take a look at a lot of data to determine which hybrid may be the highest performing one on their farm based on their soil types or based on the type of farming practice that they're involved in. And so we'll help to pinpoint with our knowledge, what's going to work best on their farm, what's worked well for them in the past. And they may be looking at, a whole different range of characteristics, from their corn hybrids, from standability to dry down to silage digestibility for the cows. Just a whole host of different things that they might be looking
There's
for.
real science involved here, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of criteria that, and every farm might be looking for something a little bit different based on their own situation.
Do they have to take their own soil samples, for example, or do you do that, or how does that work?
Well, Pioneer doesn't do that, but Bourdeau's do soil sampling, and they'll take soil samples, analyze them for what nutrients that they need to grow the crop that they're looking to put on that field, and so Bourdeau's does help out with that.
That would be rather difficult for the farmer to do on his own, wouldn't it?
Well, some farmers do their own soil sampling, but really interpreting that information that you get out of that is what the people like Jermaine can sit down and do, because he looks at so many of those. He can pinpoint exactly what the crop needs and what's there. So.
And I guess you would have to keep track of what your yield was last year and what the weather conditions were, and kind of look at an overall picture, wouldn't you?
Correct. Yeah, a lot of what you're looking at in the soil and what kind of crop you're going to produce is based on what kind of yield levels you're going to have. You need a lot more nutrients if you're going to produce 25-ton corn silage than if you're going to produce 15-ton corn silage per acre.
One of the farmers we talked to earlier today said hard work has always been associated with farming, but it's not just hard work. It has to be efficient hard work. And I think that would involve having the right kinds of seeds, wouldn't it? Huh?
Well, management is a big part of making a farm come together and getting the most out of every opportunity, whether it's in your crops or in your cows or in your machinery or whatever you might be doing. So, there's a lot of people, you can work really hard but not be doing the right things, or you can spend some time managing the different aspects of the farm. Hard work has always been involved with farming. But you have to work smart as well as work hard nowadays to be successful.
It's not uncommon in this day and age, I would imagine, for that farmer to put in his 12 or 14-hour day, then to go and sit at the computer and feed some numbers in and see what comes out on the other end.
Sure, there's a lot of different software and programs that farmers are using with computers now that help them to analyze, their operation. So it's becoming technical, just like everything else.
Very much so. Well, thanks again for Chapter 2.
All right, you're welcome.
Calvin told me when I came in here I had to climb up in the top of that thing to wrap up the show, and I said, are you kidding? I can't even bend over far enough to put my socks on in the morning. This is amazing. It wouldn't be a good show unless we finished talking with one of the famous Bourdeau brothers. Jermaine, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
We battled a big snowstorm, but we're getting a pretty good crowd in here for lunch today. Anyway.
Well, it was one that we really didn't need, because it really added to our workload. There's no question. But we don't have any choice, so we got to do it.
Mother Nature says, okay, let's dump on them today, and boy, did she.
Yeah, and they sure did. And, we worked kind of hard to get these Pioneer Days put together. And, you rely on some good weather so the farmers can get out and get the chores done in the morning, get out here in a timely manner. And, with the snow here, Tuesday we had kind of a slow day, but it's picked up a lot today and yesterday, so it's good.
I got to find out. When we drove up here, I saw those big silos across the street. You put those up behind my back since we were here the last time. What the heck is that all about?
Well, that's because you haven't been keeping an eye on your neighbors. That's
is
why.
that it? What is that?
Those are grain storage units, and basically one of those is a grain dryer, so we can actually take the corn in the fall after harvest or during harvest, high moisture corn, and we can bring it in here and actually dry it down to 15% moisture to where you can store it. And so one of the silos is a dryer. It has a capacity of drying 24 hours a day. It's all computerized. Nobody has to watch it. It will stop and start on its own as it needs to.
That's amazing.
And it can dry, depending on the moisture of the corn, it can vary a lot. But the first day we dried with it, which was 2 years ago, we dried over 300 tons the first day. So that was a lot of corn. And what was really nice about it is that it was a new system to us, and of course, a little bit of a new system to the industry. We were able to get started with that unit and never had a glitch. We went through the whole drying season without.
Is that sheer luck or what? That's amazing.
Well, maybe we had
technology like that.
Yep,
Yeah.
It's all micro switches operated. It's all computerized, and basically was able to. It does its own moisture testing. So when the corn is dry enough, it will draw from the silo enough pounds of corn, until the moisture raises, increases again. We got to set the dry at 14%, so it will draw corn, and whenever the corn gets down to 14.5 moisture, it will automatically draw from that silo and keep drawing until the moisture gets up to 15. When the moisture gets 15, it shuts down and dries for another 15 minutes. It pulls its own sample, checks the moisture again. If it's dry enough, keeps drawing. If it's not dry enough, it'll dry another 15 minutes and then check it again. So it's pretty amazing. It works really well.
What made you decide to get into that part of the business?
Well, I think it's all part of agriculture. There was no dryers around here that did any of that kind of work on a commercial basis. There was no grain storage. We are encountering some dairymen who sometimes don't want to, expand on cow numbers. They would like to look at these cash crops. This does give them an option. The option they can grow a high moisture corn and they can sell it to us if they choose to, or other people, or they can actually bring it here and get it dried and get it stored, and we'll charge them a storage fee, and then they can sell it at a later date to us or someone else, and they can run the market themselves. So if they think the market is going to come up at a later date, that the price is going to get stronger, they can actually still own the product even though it's in our storage.
Did you always own that property? Wasn't there a building over there somewhere before?
Yeah, that property was owned by someone else, and basically there was a home there, and there was kind of old pasture, and we kind of cleaned the whole area and brought in some fill, and now it's really added to our acreage, and we got lots more room than we used to have, and it's really nice.
That's great. It allows you to do some things you wanted to do before, right?
Well, exactly. We needed to expand, and as we have more equipment, we needed more room to park it. This gave us that opportunity, and it just made it so much nicer to work all the way around because there is 6 acres there, so it was kind of a good location, The price wasn't cheap, but it was needed.
They knew you needed it. Supply and demand.
You got that
Every
right.
year we come here and we meet some of our old friends and some new ones and watch them chow down and fill our bellies, and there's a lot to be said for getting together, isn't there?
Yes, there is. I mean, this is really kind of a special time, when the farmers are getting ready to go to the fields. They have some needs, and we have the products hopefully they need, and it's a good time to sit down and review new products, review new programs, new methods of doing things, discuss price, discuss cost per acre, discuss maybe some of the field test plot work that we did last year, and those are all not only the work we done, but the rest of the work that Pioneer did also. There's a lot of good information available, giving the farmer some choices and some options, and and this technology just keeps moving forward and forward.
It amazes me every time I come up here. What the heck is this big thing behind us here? That's obviously you can't deny that it's huge. But what does it do? It's for spraying?
It's a unit to apply herbicide to do weed control. In cornfields or soybean fields or in even alfalfa fields, we can actually put down liquid fertilizer with it. We can control quiet grass and old grass fields that the people want to plow down. It's a unit designed to cover lots of acres in one day, It's actually has four-wheel drive on it, and all four wheels can be interlocked together, so you can actually not get stuck anywhere. And it does have 90-foot booms on it.
Wow.
So you can cover a strip of 90 foot wide, so you'll make less trips through the field. And actually, the applicator can just maybe cover twice the acres with a machine like this today as he did 10 years ago. And volume's the game today, so that's what we need to focus on.
This is something that belongs to Bourdeau Brothers, right? You, what would you do? Lease it or rent it, or how?
No, we go out and do the work on a per acre basis. So the farmer will tell us how many acres of corn he wants sprayed, or how many acres of alfalfa land he wants sprayed, and we'll just go in with the products that are needed and put them down. And in most cases, those we could probably put them down at no greater cost than what he would encounter himself. And for a lot of people today, it's an added service because of the labor issue, because of the licenses that are required. I mean, you do need to have an applicator's license to drive this thing. You do need to have a license to handle these pesticides and herbicides. So, therefore, that's all part of the thing that makes it all happen out there.
I'm getting a real good education today. That is all people like to look at toys, and boy, that's a big toy. It's brand new, isn't it?
No, that machine was new last year. It does have one full season worth of work. I mean, we did.
Come on. Calvin and I were looking around, and we said, I don't think that's been in the field yet, but it has been.
Yeah, that machine covered over 5,000 acres last year.
Kidding.
Maybe, this is more than 5. It's probably closer to 6,000 acres. So, no, it's been there. This is the way we put it away. We clean it up when we get all done. And we did wipe it down because we took it out of the storage there, for the pioneer days, no question. But it's always nice to keep a nice piece of equipment like this looking good too.
It's impressive when you come in. You got to walk over here with me and tell me what this thing is before we wrap it up here today. I'm fascinated by this. What does this do?
Well, this is a new metering system to calibrate these units on these corn planters. In the past, we've always thought that this stuff was always correct when it came out of the factory. In a lot of cases, it can be correct. One of the things we've come to learn that these planting units, especially this one here, which is what they call a finger pickup, this is not calibrated at the factory, designed for the speed that you're going to plant at. This is kind of a estimate of how it's calibrated. And what we do on this machine, we try to find out from the farmer at what speed he's going to plant. And if he's going to plant at 5.5 miles an hour, we'll calibrate this finger pickup unit for 100% accuracy at 5.5. So, and basically there's some moving mechanism parts in here, and we all have a tendency, we're done planting the corn, is do something different, and we kind of forget about that unit. And it never really gets checked and calibrated. And our seed spacing in the field, is very important. And we've learned it's gotten even more important. So we need to have that accuracy when we go to the field. And this allows our metering unit to go ahead and provide that for us. And, we got to remember that we don't have that many opportunities in a lifetime to plant a good crop. In other words, a man farming is only going to plant so many crops in his lifetime. So we need to do it right each time we're going to do it.
That's something to remember, Calvin. A man doesn't have too many opportunities in his lifetime to plant a good crop. So you better work it out and plant a good one. Jermaine, thanks for allowing us to come inside your shop here today and break a little bread, as they say, and a few pancakes and sausage and eggs with farmers. We can't say enough for the farmers in the North Country. They're a mighty fine group, and I don't know where we'd be without them.
Well, there's no question. I mean, I've been here 20 years working with the people. I've enjoyed it very much, and I hope I can, experience it for another 20 years. I mean, we've built some great relationships. Hopefully, we've provided, some of them or most of them with a good quality service and a good product, and, look forward to do business with all of them again,
Yes, keep those chickens laying eggs and keep making that sausage and those big pancakes and squeeze those old maple trees and get all the sap and syrup we can out of them and pray for an early spring and get this cotton picking snow over with.
Well, hopefully this snow can be rewarding to some of us because, a lot of these legume fields, alfalfa fields have a tendency a lot of time to have a lot of damage in the spring when we have a lot of ice coverage. And hopefully this snow will help us in that area. You know, we've had a tremendous amount of alfalfa kill the last few years. It's been tough for people to keep these alfalfa stands, and hopefully with this snow coverage, that would, you know, maybe be a blessing this year.
Well, there are a lot of people viewing this who are saying, how could that much snow be a blessing to anybody? But we learned in talking with some of the farmers earlier today that this might prevent some of that winter kill that we talked about before. So you see, the good Lord up above knew what he was doing when he dumped on you up here.
Well, you know, other than moving the snow, I really don't have no problem with it. And I think not only that, but it could actually add some moisture to our soils, you know, for summer reserve if we happen to have a drought. And that definitely wasn't the case last year, but we never know when they're going to come. So I think this, you know, kind of an old-fashioned winter, and I think it's, you know, it's okay, you know.
As the weatherman said, this winter could be back to normal. And so are we, although I don't know if what normal is with this belly. If I keep coming back here every year, Calvin's going to have to use one of these big pieces of machinery to put me in the back of his car. Jermaine, again, thanks so much for having us here and for having Pioneer Days.
Well, thanks for coming. We enjoy to have you come out every year. Look forward to seeing you guys again next year.
We're right up here in Champlain, and we're going to be back in just a moment. We're back out in the bright sunshine in this early time in March 2001 to wrap up our show at Bourdeau Brothers up on the Mason Road in Champlain, reminding our viewers that we don't come to these businesses as an infomercial or by way of promoting any special products or techniques. We do it because this is where the farmers get together. People get together to share their ideas. And if you haven't learned something by sticking with this program today, you haven't paid attention, because I think I probably got the equivalent of 15 credit hours just meeting with these farmers and talking with them. At the very least, I learned a lot about what farming life is all about in this day and age today, and I hope you have too. I hope you find these programs interesting. If so, we'll continue to do them while the good Lord gives us the energy and the wherewithal. Who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.